Even though you learn everything in French, vocabulary, conjugation, everything, you may not really sound French, or at least not natural. And you know why? It's because you don't know the tic de langage, these speech patterns or language habits that natives have. But today, well, we're gonna discover them together. Bonjour tout le monde, I'm Cassie, your French tutor, so you can discover France the French way. And before we start, don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel, it only takes a second, and give a thumbs up. So before we start, I'm gonna show you a dialogue, and don't worry if you don't really understand what is said. It's kind of intended, but you're gonna hear it again at the end of the video and it should be all clear. Alors t'es prêt? On y va. Et du coup, tu viens à la fête? Bah peut-être, ouais, je sais pas. Il y aura quoi comme musique? Je sais pas du tout, faut que je revérifie, tiens. Mais alors certainement pas de reggaeton, tu les connais, hein. Ah non, je viens pas alors. Ils vont encore mettre leur électro de merde là. J'avoue, bah, je sais pas quoi faire du coup. So as I told you, today we're gonna learn about speech patterns in French. And you've probably heard that already if you've listened to French series, podcast, whatever, or even if you've listened to me speaking, because I have many. And you know what? I'm not even trying to hide them. So today I have 10 speech patterns, tic de langage, just for you. Je sais pas du tout. And we start with contraction. So we tend to skip many vowels if they are not necessary to understand the message. Ah non, je viens pas alors. I'm really insisting on that. If it troubles the understanding, the message itself, it's no good. But if not, you can just skip them. But what I'm saying is not true everywhere in France. Keep in mind that I grew up in the region around Paris, so I have the Parisian way of speaking. And yeah, we tend to speak fast. So by contraction, what I mean, again, is that you skip the vowel. So for example, with je, if the verb that follows starts with a vowel, what do you do? J with an apostrophe. The I, le E. The I, well, you just forget about it. So for example, je ai becomes j'ai. Okay? We do that all the time. So for example, je suis becomes je suis. And because je and se, they're not that easy, it even becomes suis. Je sais, sais. Je veux, je veux. So as you see, it's not only when the verb starts with the vowel all the time. The vowels, we skip them whenever we can. So for example, I don't want, je ne veux pas. We skip whatever we can, so it becomes je veux pas. Another one that I say a lot, if not all the time actually, well, we don't really say oui and non in French, or at least in spoken French. We say ouais et non. I cannot recall the last time I've heard a French person genuinely in a conversation without thinking about it using oui or non for the matter. So for example, tu sais quand elle arrive? Non, je sais pas. And if you don't know how to ask a question, I posted a video a few weeks ago teaching you everything about French questions and how to avoid textbook mistakes. It is just here. On continue? Ouais. And now we switch to du coup. Et du coup, tu viens à la fête? What is that? Du coup. So du coup is something that is very French. I remember where I used to work before in the Netherlands, customers of the company, they were French Canadian and they kind of made fun of me because I was always saying du coup. And du coup is really these kind of habits, you don't really know why they exist, but it can be several things. So we can use them as like then or otherwise. You cancel your plan for the night, well, on fait quoi? Du coup? Then what do we do? On fait quoi? Du coup? Or for example, you were talking with a friend and you kind of started to talk about something else, but you want to come back to the original topic. You could say, du coup, je te disais, whatever, and then you come back to the original topic. So it can be several things, but it is used a lot. There are also these sounds,
Bah peut-être, ouais, je sais pas.
they help you think. They help you take your time so you can think of what you are going to say. And one of these is bah. So bah, you say that when you hesitate. Qu'est-ce que tu veux? Bah, je sais pas. For example, bah, and you know, a long bah, something like that. So you hesitate and it saves you time. But be careful, because if you're a bit too harsh, it can sound like what you're saying is obvious and you expect the other person, the one you're talking with, to know the answer or to know what you're talking about. So it can be a bit harsh. Careful. But, you know, with hesitation, it's fine. But, not nice. For example, et qu'est-ce qu'on fait ce soir? Bah, on va à la fête. Harsher. The next one is also about contraction, but I kind of put it aside on a different category, kinda. It is il y a that we contract to ya. So instead of saying il y a, there is ya. Il y a une plante. Il y a un oreiller rouge. Ya instead of il y a. And actually, when you think about it, il, we tend to skip it. So for example, il faut rentrer tôt. Faut rentrer tôt. Another hesitation sound is and you actually spot French people speaking other languages with that. They speak the other language, even if their accent is amazing, but they tend to say that my friend, that's the most French thing you can see or hear. Tu veux quoi? Bah je sais pas. That sounds French. That is natural French. So again, hesitation, and it saves you time, so you can gather your thoughts. Ben, whatever you want. Though careful, because it may sound a bit ignorant if you use them a bit too much, but you know, you just sprinkle them, and that's fine. French people do that anyway. Okay, another sound, but this one is the opposite of hesitation. That would be hein? Well, actually, it can be hesitation, kinda. When you did not understand something, you want to repeat, that would be the equivalent of what? Huh? But it's also to confirm something. So that would be the equivalent of isn't it? Tu aimes le vin, hein? I'm asking for confirmation here. But again, it can also be what? So instead of quoi, you can just say hein? Again, sounds very French.
J'avoue. Bah je sais pas quoi faire du coup.
For the rest, we stop with just sounds, and I'm only gonna talk about words. Kinda. So the next one is j'avoue. So j'avoue technically means I admit it, or I admit. So the verb is avouer, which is to admit. Like you committed a crime, you admit you did it, tu avoues. Okay, but j'avoue is like you hear something you did not think about before, or maybe you hear another point of view and you're kind of surprised, but you know, nicely surprised. You're like, huh, okay, I see what you mean. Like, oh, j'avoue. See, it's like you approve what you've just heard, but again, it was not obvious at first, or you've just heard about it.
Je sais pas du tout, faut que je revérifie, tiens.
Another one that is not exactly grammatically, technically correct, but again, here we talk about, well, spoken French. It is adding re before a verb to make it like happen a second time. So it is kind of the same in English. You have I do something, I redo something, so I do it again. But we tend to use it a bit more in French. So we have like normal verbs with re. So for example, voir, to see. Revoir, to see again. Je vais revoir le film. Okay, but again, we use it a bit too much.
Mais et notre petit déjeuner?
Vous l'avez déjà pris?
Oui, le premier, c'est vrai. Qu'en est-il du second petit déjeuner?
So for example, what about second breakfast? Well, I'm glad you asked. Je vais remanger un petit déjeuner.
Il n'a pas l'air au courant pour le second petit déjeuner, Pipin.
Je sais pas du tout, faut que je revérifie, tiens.
And last one for today, that will be tiens. So, tiens, technically it is, well, from the verb tenir, to hold, but it's like, here it is. You know, you present something to someone, here it is, well, tiens. That's for them to have it. That's for them to grab it. Okay, but we also use it at the end of a sentence. So we tend to use it, for example, when we just remember something. For example, je dois faire mes courses, tiens. See? I just remembered that. So please, don't overdo these kind of French language habits. You can use them from time to time and you will seem so much more natural in French.
Et du coup, tu viens à la fête? Bah peut-être, ouais, je sais pas. Il y aura quoi comme musique? Je sais pas du tout, faut que je revérifie, tiens. Mais alors certainement pas de reggaeton, tu les connais, hein. Ah non, je viens pas alors. Ils vont encore mettre leur électro de merde là. J'avoue, bah, je sais pas quoi faire du coup.
And to accompany all these tics de langage, it is actually best if you know a bit of slang too. So that's why I advise you to watch this video next. And yeah, you will sound like a true Parisian in no time. Donc à la semaine prochaine. Salut!